Hey guys, it's ExandShadow here with my newest Let's Play for... Wait for it because the screen is loading. There we go, LostWinds. LostWinds is a game that you might have heard of. It's not unknown. It's a WiiWare game. Actually, LostWinds was one of the very first WiiWare games ever released. If I remember correctly, it was one of the first three released on the day that WiiWare launched. However, WiiWare is not the only way that you can play this game. You can play it on on any iOS device. There are some benefits and some drawbacks to using the iOS version, though. I'm not a fan of the touch controls, just because I don't like having my finger in front of the screen, because it makes it harder to see. But, however, the iOS version does bring in some aspects from the sequel, like the map. So, whether or not you want to get the WiiWare version or the iOS version is really up to you. I'd say they're about equal, because, you know, there's some pluses to this version, some minuses to this version, etc., etc. Anyway, this first section is kind of self-explanatory. Just go right, you fall down a thing, and then we find the exposition rock. I mean, this rock thing. Yes. Huh. I wonder what that's doing there. Kinda odd, though. You know, normally I wouldn't touch a glowy rock. That's probably gonna give you, like, cancer or something. So, anyway, this thing is Enroll, which is apparently a wind spirit. I don't know why we're just trusting random rocks that we find on the ground, but, yeah, you know what, she seems like a pretty nice, chick, guy, I don't know. Do spirits even have gender? I mean, you're a rock, you probably don't have genitalia. Huh. Never mind. Anyway, here we're getting our backstory to how the world was created. Basically, there's the spirit named Balasar, and he's a dick. So all the other spirits are like, fuck this dude, we're gonna put him into a rock. So, yeah, that doesn't turn out quite as well as they hoped. I mean, they try to put him into the rock, and Balasar's rightfully pissed off about that. So Enril decides, you know what, dude, fine, I'll keep you company, just get in the fucking rock, okay? And so Enril and Balasar are just stuck in this rock. But then then Balasar figures out that Enril really only likes to play checkers, and Balasar hates fucking checkers, so he tries to drill his way out with his cactus tongue. And then eventually he does, and then Enril gets stuck in the rock with no one to play checkers with, while Balasar gets decapitated and all of his body parts get scattered across the land. And then Simon Belmont comes in and goes into each of... No, wait, sorry, wrong game, never mind. Anyway, Enril needs to go find Balasar because she wants to play a game with somebody. And so we need to use Toku here, who's the little boy with the stupid hat. He needs to use Enril to find Balasar, I guess. Stop him. Defeat evil. You know, stuff. However, we are very weak at the moment, and we only have the ability to gust. This is really where the main gimmick of LostWinds comes in, and thankfully it gets introduced within the first 5 minutes. I've seen entire games where you go at least 10 hours before the main gimmick gets introduced. Dragon Quest VI. Oh, sorry. What could I ever have been thinking? Anyway, we have the ability to gust. Basically, the little Enril there, which is the little diamondy spiral thing, you control that with the pointer. And if you draw a line by pressing A and moving the pointer, you will do a gust. And basically, that's how most of the puzzles in this game work. You use Toku to move Enril, you use Toku to move around the environment, and you use Enril to interact with the environment. And the puzzles are mostly revolved around using your wind powers, and you'll get more. This is not the only one you get, but you use this. You use the wind powers that you acquire along your journey in order to get across the game. If I had to compare the setup to the game to any other, it's a very Metroidvania in that we've got an open world, but we need to explore it and find different powers in order to explore different parts of the world. We are given specific objectives, so it's not completely aimless, which I'm grateful for. But you can explore the world as much as you like and just sort of ignore what's going on. Not that there's a whole lot of reason to. There really isn't a whole lot to do if you're not trying to progress with the plot. Anyway, this is a shrine made by some creatures called the Melodias, which I'm sure we will never hear from ever in the series. And basically, if you find one, you have to stand on the little platform and then use a gust across the little windmill thingamahoozit. If you do that, then Enril gets a new power because, magic. Yeah, it seems good enough for me. Anyway, what basically happened now is that our gust ability got upgraded, which means that we can now gust higher and jump higher and stuff. Whenever you're maneuvering about, I recommend gusting as opposed to walking, because it's just faster. Anyway, we picked up a little statue over there, and then it said 1 out of 24. Oh, there's another one. There's really no point to picking up these statues. They're just sort of there so that you have a reason to explore the environment, you know? There's not a whole lot to getting them in this game. In the sequel, they unlock bios for characters, and in the iOS version, they added that functionality back in. So if you're playing it on iPad or iPhone, you do unlock character bios for the little jar statue thingies. You do get those, so there is now sort of a reason to find them, I guess, kinda. However, I'm not really going for it because the reward really isn't worth it, if there is a reward in this version of the game. And it's just kind of a waste of time. I'm just trying to play through the game normally, so I'm just getting to the end. Even if you are trying to explore all of the areas and get all the statues, this game probably wouldn't take you more than 3 hours to beat your first time through. I beat it in about an hour this time, and I think the world record's like 20 minutes or something ridiculous like that. Anyway, this is the way back to where we were sleeping earlier. This is not actually where we're supposed to go, but I wanted to show off this dialogue, because when you jump over it using the power of wind, then she goes like, "Oh, how'd you do that? You're so cool," and stuff. But we're not supposed to go this way at the moment. We're supposed to go right, because it's a video game. Why do video games go right? Huh. Never mind. Anyway, as you saw there, you can use your wind to interact with the environment beyond just Toku. I gusted near that water, and then water flew out. And if I move the cursor around the trees move, and I can gust random civilians, and then they interact with the wind. That's one of the most fun things about this game, is just interacting with everything, because the game does interact with the wind in a lot of ways, and it's just a beautiful looking game. I love the way this game looks. Anyway, this Melodia statue, and I don't know what these Melodias are, but I'm sure we'll never hear of them. You press Z next to them, and then you save. Anyway, this is Dio. He's kind of our guardian, uncle, vague, mentor type figure of vagueness. Anyway, our mother, Magdi. Oh, so our mother isn't dead, she just left us behind with a stranger who is coincidentally also a creepy old man. Wonderful. Also, it appears that he's some sort of super powerful ancient spirit that holds unimaginable powers. But he forgot about it. I knew he should have taken his pills this morning. Anyway, we now have to figure out why Dio isn't remembering anything. Even though I don't know why we should take your word for it, because as far as I know, you're still a creepy talking rock that can move the wind. But yeah. Anyway, you now need to earthquake. That's normal. How can there even be an earthquake? We're on a floating island in the sky. How does that even work? Anyway, now that earthquake has happened, we need to go and find another person to talk to for plot purposes. I'm not going to spoil it because we haven't yet to talk to this person. Anyway, just if you're looking for them, they're near the top of the village. I don't know why they just constructed their village as in a 2D plane, but they did. Anyway, here's our expedition explorer. Notea. Huh. He is the game's attempt at being a quirky original character. It is a decent attempt, but it kind of fails a little bit. I will say that I love LostWinds for its atmosphere, but the writing has it has some kinks. It's a little bit stilted, I'm not gonna lie. I think that the sequel does a better job at making the characters seem believable. But I appreciate the attempt at quirky original characters, but Notea here is just a little bit too, stilted. I think it's more due to a lack of dialogue than anything. Characters only get like 3 or 4 sentences, even during these, story segments, so they don't get a whole lot of time to flesh their personalities out, I guess. Which kind of sucks. I do like the world in general, so I would love to see some of these characters fleshed out a little bit more, but, oh well. Anyway, I guess I should talk about the strengths of the game, because at this point we haven't done a whole lot of gameplay. Basically, the strengths of this game is definitely atmosphere and immersion. This game just sucks you right into its world. One of the biggest strengths for this is obviously the graphics. I mean, look at this. This is a Wii game that came out in 2008, and it is gorgeous. It's not even a Wii game, it's a WiiWare game, and those games suffered from awful file size limitations. I think they were only able to be like, 400 megabytes or something like that. So yeah, there was not a whole lot of space for these games. So the way that they can push so much detail into this environment, it's stylized, but it still looks beautiful. And yeah, I'm surprised that they were able to make the game look as good as it does. I don't want to completely gush over the graphics because they are kind of blocky, but I do love how the way they looks, and this game just looks like something that could have just been taken right off of the pages of a sketchbook or something. Another strength that this game that I'm going to constantly gush over is the soundtrack. Now, normally I'm one for more melody-focused soundtracks, and this is very atmosphere. However, I do like that this game has a very distinct sounding atmosphere as opposed to just low humming noises or something. Or better, it's better than just pure silence or either. Basically, the game has a very distinct sound. Like, if you ever hear, like, whenever I think of this game, I start thinking of the instruments that the game uses, like the flute especially. And the game does a really good job at matching the music with the tone, because whenever you're outside, it uses mostly high-pitched notes, and when you go into some of the cave like areas, it's mostly low-pitched notes. So, you know, the game's very well designed on a music and a visual point, which makes it very easy to get engrossed. And if there's one thing that I appreciate in a game, it's immersion. I think immersion might actually be the part of a game that I appreciate the most, because even if the game has issues, if I'm still managed to completely lose myself in the game, it has to be doing something right. And thankfully, this game does do most things right. It's not perfect, but I have a hard time trying to describe where its faults are. You know, which I guess is good. I guess there are better games, is just the way that I want to describe. But that seems like it's sort of insulting this game, and I don't want the game to be insulted. Anyway, here we have our first real puzzle room. We had some puzzles earlier, but not a whole lot. However, here's where we run into the biggest flaw with LostWinds, and that's object manipulation. See this rock? This is the floatiest goddamn rock I've ever seen in my goddamn life. Trying to move things with the wind is incredibly imprecise and picky. And to make it matters worse, if you accidentally hit yourself with items like rocks or even fruit at some points, you take damage, which is bad. Especially since a lot of the times the only way to stop these objects is using your body as a wall, which sucks. So, yeah, this game does have, if this game has one definite issue, it is that. Object manipulation is a pain in the ass. Actually, another problem that the game has is probably fighting enemies. Enemies are really annoying to fight a lot of the times, because there's no way to really deal with enemies until late in the game. Right now, the only abilities we have are Gust, and that really can't do a whole lot to enemies, unless if we have something in the environment to interact with, like, say, fire or this rock, or if we just gust them enough times that they finally splatter against the wall. Later on in the game, we do get better abilities to fight enemies, but at the very beginning of the game, it's pretty tedious, and it doesn't really get a whole lot better later on. Basically, it's kind of a chore right now, and when we get these new abilities, it's still tedious, but it's not that bad. That's, I guess I could say, those are the two biggest flaws with this game. Enemy fighting is just a pain in the ass. Also, I think that the game sort of rushes to introduce new abilities, which I guess makes sense. They want to introduce us to new stuff as quickly as possible, but they also want to get to the interesting puzzles, so they need to give us powers as quickly as possible. It's just that I feel that it's a little bit too rushed for its own good at some points, which I really don't want to say that this is a bad game. It's just that it starts off a little bit rocky. I will say that the sequel to this game is much better, but this game does function as a good tutorial for the sequel, so There are definitely good aspects to it. Anyway, the ability we got now is what is called Slipstream. Basically, it functions similarly to Gust, only you use the B button instead of the A button to control the wind. Basically, it's a more directed version of Gust. Gust, basically, you'll only use now for very broad object manipulation or for jumping. Slipstream basically allows you to move objects in whatever direction you want. Usually this is going to be fire or water. So like, for example, we see that torch over there? I use Slipstream and then it follows the path that I just set. This makes, especially when you're near fire, this makes Slipstream a very effective method of fighting enemies. Basically, if you just ram an enemy with fire, it'll pretty much die instantly. There are other uses for this too, like getting water onto things, and we were holding a little propeller plant a little bit earlier. You use Slipstream to control your own route whenever you have that. That torch up there had smoke going up on it. In order to make the smoke become a fire, you just have to use a gust on it. I guess that's supposed to be like blowing on the flame. If you've ever set a fire before, you know what I'm talking about. But I don't really know why they're doing that. It just seems like an extra step of busy work, doesn't it? Why can't they just have the fire there? It's not really that big of a deal, since it takes pretty much half a second just to do that anyway. But, yeah, the game does give you a pretty good sense of, how the puzzles work early on. It also gives you a good idea of how to interact with the environment. I'd say that the game gives a little bit too much tutorial at points, but then again, there isn't really any other way to figure out that you can burn plants and then they magically become seeds that are instantly usable for replanting instead of just, dying like a normal seed would. Anyway, yeah, you water up seed in order to make it grow. That should be relatively simple enough, right? Right, we all know how that works. Those thorny things, either a gust or a burst of flame will kill them. They're really just sort of an obstacle. They're not too hard to get rid of. I just love how this game looks, man. I'm trying not to gush, I'm really not. But this game really does succeed in an atmosphere front, which is one of the... I guess when it comes to aesthetics, atmosphere is really, really important to me. These are Jumpy Shrooms. I don't know if they have an official name, but for the time being, I'm going to call them Jumpy Shrooms. Basically, you just, you use a gust downwards on them while you're standing on them, and then you'll be able to bounce really, really, really high. Anyway, this game is relatively short, so the Let's Play is only going to take a couple of days, but still, this is a game that I felt like sharing, and I hope that you guys check it out for yourself. Despite a few kinks, it is still a very fun game. Anyway, next time we're going to find out what's up with Dio's memory loss problems and stuff. I'm ExandShadow, and I'll see you guys later.